Hello traders, Victor from TRADEPRO Academy, and in today's video what we're going to be talking about is futures order flow. Now, futures order flow is probably the best tool to understand actually how the market is moving, where it's moving, and what the anticipated moves are in the futures market. However, futures order flow is one of the most misunderstood tools in futures trading. Just in general, order flow is one of the most misunderstood tools and one of the hardest to learn and one of the longest to learn. So in today's video, what I'm going to be talking about is how we can actually cut down the process of correctly understanding futures order flow with some examples. Now, quick learners, I would say, would take maybe 4 to 6 months to understand futures order flow to a very good level. I wouldn't say professional, right? Maybe you're going to be a very, very successful trader and super professional. If we rank it 1 out of 10 and you perform at 10, maybe 4 to 6 months, you'll get at 6, right? Some slower learners, they might get to 6 out of 10 in maybe over a year. So it does take a long time, and I want to show you guys how we can actually speed up that process so you guys are doing it properly, are not wasting time, and can continue forward with your futures journey. Now, one of the main issues and one of the struggles that a lot of futures traders make, or traders that are trying to get into futures trading, is that they don't necessarily know even where to start. They don't understand the mistakes they're making with order flow. They don't even understand what they're looking at when it comes to order flow. Now, order flow, I would say, is going to be best looked at if you start looking at the depth of market in futures trading. The depth of market is a tool that allows us to see limit orders and market orders coming and flying through the market and how they interact with one another. So it's not just being able to look at this and discern, okay, there's buyers and sellers here and there. It gets a little more complicated than that. And this is the most misunderstood fact about order flow. Not only do people not know where to look, which is the DOM, they don't necessarily know what they're looking at the DOM, and they don't necessarily realize the mistakes they're making when they're looking at the depth of market. Looking at the depth of market gives you an advantage because the futures market is a centralized exchange, meaning that all the orders that flow through the market are going to be in that one DOM, right? You're not going to have to look through different exchanges to kind of piece together what it is that you're looking at. Now, to go into the DOM, right, platforms, they generally give you some kind of default DOM that has very limited information, and people don't necessarily understand what exactly they should be looking at, right? A lot of people are looking at the DOM and they're looking at limit orders coming in and out and thinking that's actually what moves the market and what's going on with the market, which is very incorrect. Now, I use Sierra chart, so the default DOM is not at all what you should be looking at, right? This is the default DOM, and this is the actual DOM that I suggest people look at, right? I'll throw them up on the screen. And platforms like Jigsaw, for example, their default DOM is the DOM that you should be looking at. They provide all of the information that you have. It is an extra cost, right? If you're trading with Jigsaw as your primary trading tool, right? You could use charting from Sierra, but you're just adding to cost. So I prefer to use more of a customized Sierra chart DOM. Now, if you take a look at the current Sierra chart DOM that I have and that I'm using, there are multiple different columns, right? I've gone through this in many different videos, but to give you guys an insight on what is important and what might not be very important, let's go from left to right on this DOM, right? At the most left, we have the volume profile, right? The volume profile is a solid tool that you can use to understand where there are distributions and ledges. I wouldn't put this at number 1 spot of importance, but it's good to recognize where volume generally sits on a trading session or an overnight session. Number 2 here, that's glued to the volume profile, is the delta, the market delta, which is an important tool because it is the difference between the ask volume and the bid volume. So large positive and large negative deltas can contribute to areas of interest for traders, stuck traders, so on and so forth. To get to the main component that I think traders should be looking at, it's not going to be price. Price is fairly arbitrary. And to a lot of your surprise, it's not going to be the limit orders on the bid and the ask, right? Instead, it's going to be the 2 middle columns that you see that we'll highlight right here, and these are market orders that actually interact, right? When price interacts with these market orders and how they interact with each other is where a lot of people don't understand. That's where they should be starting to understand how market movement and order flow actually is supposed to be read. So when we look at these middle columns, right, you might not even know what you're looking at, right? You might not even know how you're looking at this. We do have some videos that explain this on YouTube, obviously, but the main point being here is no matter how long you stare at this, no matter how frequently you do it, realistically, you're not going to be able to look at it for the full market open throughout the session, right? You're not going to be able to sit there for 6-8 hours every single day and be able to stare at this, getting information. So this one simple trick, one simple tool will help you be able to actually fast track the process and learning how to read order flow. So I use Sierra Charts. Sierra Charts is a platform just like Jigsaw, right? Both these two platforms I really like, but let's talk about Sierra Charts. Sierra Charts is a platform that allows me to actually do a market replay. So as you can see on the screen here, we'll drop down on the chart, we'll replay, and when you click that button, you can change the dates, you can change the time, right? And you can do a lot of things. This market replay allows me to speed up the process, slow it down, be able to go back in time several days, weeks, months, to be able to read the order flow that comes through the book. So understand the simple replay feature. I can replay a full week maybe in one single day, or key aspects of a full week in one single day, right? Depending on how fast or what parts I choose to cut in or cut out, because not every single movement is going to be important throughout the day. Point is, instead of having to practice on a daily basis, sitting there, not doing anything else but staring at the DOM, you can work your day job, you can go about your normal day if you're only at the computer for 1 or 2 hours, then absorb all that knowledge that might have happened throughout the day, throughout yesterday, maybe at a later time or on the weekend in a condensed fashion. So you can learn a lot more in a much shorter period of time. Some tips on this: I wouldn't necessarily replay a full week in a single day, right? Maybe I'll replay 2 sessions in a single day max. But if you have 6 to 10 hours of general market movement, right, it's very unreasonable to sit there even for half that time watching this replay, right? Do whatever you're able to do. On the weekends, try to push a little harder. I know a lot of successful traders that have spent a very, very long time replaying these. And again, it's to the point as to how bad do you really want to do this. I do a replay on a weekly basis as well myself. So you're constantly learning and you're constantly being able to adapt the order flow patterns by doing this. Another key tip is don't necessarily replay every single part of the day. Start replaying some key areas where you got some large moves, some key inflection points, some follow-throughs. Larger movements, if you replay those based on a DOM, will give you a better understanding of what it is exactly you should be looking for. So start off with that. Don't actually just destroy yourself from the get-go and watching hours and hours of the DOM replay. You're human after all. You're not a robot. You're not going to be able to take in the information. You're going to get fatigued mentally, and it's just not effective that way. It becomes way less effective when you do it in that manner. One last tip here before I show you a little example of what we have, because I do replays on a weekly basis, maybe 1 or 2 sessions for our team where I make a depth of market order flow library actually to explain the thought process, explain some actual trades, right, and do some actual replays. So everything in between we've compiled in this depth of market library. So just before I show you guys an example of that, there's one more thing. When you're reading, here's another tip. When you're reading the middle columns of the DOM, don't just look at it and say, okay, well, there's 400 buyers coming in at 3 levels, it has to go up. The point of the depth of market and market orders is that you look at how buyers and sellers in these middle columns interact with each other regardless of the size of the volume. So the interaction and the speed at which the interaction happens. So for example, if at 3 levels, there's a combined total of 1,500 bids that are split up maybe 500, 500, 500, right? The expectation is for price to go up. However, if there's big sellers that come in, maybe 300, 400, and actually react to the downside with speed, those longs are getting stuck. So you have to understand the reactions of the market and the traders are extremely important, rather than just looking at this and thinking XYZ has to happen because the numbers are large. Right? Again, we have a lot of videos on our channel. We also have a free trading course for futures on our website, absolutely free. Go check that out. You'll get a lot of this information and more. So to wrap this up, let's go ahead and take a look at an example of the replay that I've done, exactly what I'm looking at, how I'm looking at it, and I hope you guys use this very, very valuable tip to expedite your learning process in futures order flow. And we'll see how this does open on the session. right? We're probably going to open closer to like 44.10, 44.09 into that area. And you can see it's above the 44.05 region, which is the start of a thicker distribution volume, which should present a leg to the upside realistically. So there's no need to fight these trends, especially as we break them down and understand what distribution and auction theory does look like, so we can get an upper hand on market expectation, market movement, directionality expectation, so on and so forth. So this is one of the main things that we do have to consistently watch on a day-to-day basis before the market opens. So let's take a look at how this does shape up here. Maybe we skip ahead until the open. So this is about the opening print here. You can see now we're going to be watching how these bulls versus bears do shape up. You can see off the open, there's larger orders coming in on the sell side here on the DOM 950 that gets swept away by buyers, right? And yeah, okay, we pull into this like 14 area, which is the first mini resistance in between the distribution block. We'll watch as we come back down into these regions. You can see weaker overall sell that just keeps getting absorbed. So this is telling us that there is some bullish activity on the DOM here right off the open. You can see the orders on the bear side, they're fairly small, and when they do become big, they just get rebid and upticked. So we're looking at this, right? You have 30, 50, 100 comes in, 200 comes in sell side, 300 comes in sell side, kind of holds there. You get another 200 at two levels, 270 at two levels, 300. You're getting upticks at 600. Over 1,000 lot at 3 ticks. It gets upticked pretty hard by big buyers, right? So the sellers they're losing their ground. They're losing footing in this market right now, right off the open. So we're trying to decide which way the DOM does lean off the open. You can see larger sellers come in. They get rebid pretty aggressively off this like 08, 07. I know it's not exactly in the area that maybe we would have wanted, but this is the region where the buyers would like to hold out, right? So you could try something like this, right? Trying to getting in on this leg to the upside. It's, I think, just a touch more aggressive because I would have liked it closer to 07. Let's see. So again, you have 280 sellers come in, 260 buy side, 150 buy side, upticking it. Every time the seller comes in, if it's a weak seller, it kind of follows through. If it's a big seller, it gets absorbed by the buy side, acting as liquidity. So again, 260 buy side, 270 comes in, pops it up. 170 comes buy side, pops it up. Let's see. 300 comes buy side, 400 buy side, or sorry, sell side, 300 below sell side, right? 400 buyers, 400 sell side here, 500 sell side right now. Buy side coming in at 2 different levels. 500 buy side goes above it and upticks it. So this is the potential for the long shaping up into these 08s, 09s, right? Because these are the areas where you start to get sellers that are coming in pretty aggressively and getting just a rebid. So you can see like 500 and 200 sell side, 300 buy side, 550 buy side comes in, upticks aggressively, 500 buy side comes in, 400 buy side below that upticks a little more aggressively. So you can see this is the formation of a bullish dominant. Like the first targets would be around that 14, I would say 14, 15, and seeing if we can run it up into those like lower 20s. That's the first area, which is like the general top of the distribution where you could see some sellers, but otherwise, as long as we're above this like 05, it's very, very difficult, in my opinion, to see some of that sell side. There goes the rebid again. And every time you come into these 08s, you just notice how they continuously get stuck in rebid. Like again, you have this time at 10, you have 330 buy side gets upticked by a 400 buyer, or sorry, sell side. I keep saying buy side. 360 sell side upticks, 288 buy side, right? Into these areas, you're starting to get these reactive bids that are holding out, which would ideally generate a leg to the upside. It just becomes a matter of time because they're coiling until one big buyer steps in and just bursts all this. Because again, you just see this DOM accumulate sellers that get uptick. It's not at all what you want to see. There's a strong uptick. At this point, you should start to see the break of the upside leg. Strong uptick on like decent sell side. You had 400, 300 sellers come in. You have a big buy side sweep that drops up. That's an aggressive reoffer at that area. So one of the reasons why I was looking for some of the bears, but notice the whole leg through on this grind to the upside, how the sellers were getting swept away. And even on that last leg, you can see how they reoffered aggressively. Now they're back on the rebid, back to the area where they reoffered. 700, 800 negative delta here. You can see sellers are trying, 700 sellers getting uptick. This, at this point, 1,000 sellers, right? 1,200 sellers coming in, 1,300 sellers upticking on a 700 bid, 1,400 sellers uptick. That's it, right? No more bear. You can see how aggressively they're trying to uptick this move. These guys are getting super trapped. And this, if anything, should have been that signal that you should be looking for the longs, especially through these levels, right? I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. I hope you guys learned a lot from it and you're ready to replay. No matter how good you get at trading, continuously replay because you're going to learn a lot from that. So I want to know down below, do you guys replay? And if you don't, are you going to start replaying your futures to learn the order flow better? This was Victor from TRADEPRO Academy. If you enjoyed this video, drop a like, hit that subscribe button, and share with your friends to expedite your learning process in order flow. Now, I'll see you guys in our next video.